So, we've gone through carbohydrate. Yeah, carbohydrate model is now down. So now we're going to have a look at the next macronutrient, which is our proteins. Now protein, you're seeing it everywhere now, and protein is high in fashion. High protein this, high protein that. The food manufacturers, the food industry has jumped on board and says, okay, people think that protein is great, so let's have a lot of protein. All right, it's protein, high protein is basically the new low fat. All right, so we had low fat through the 80s and through the 90s, and we still got low fat milk now and whatnot. Now what's getting promoted is high protein. So jump and have a high protein. Now high protein diets are also the rage at the moment, and I don't recommend them. I put myself through a lot of them, and I don't think high protein is optimal either. So people are going high protein, low carbohydrate in the hope to lose fat. All right, now it does work. Protein does starve the fat, and I'm going to show you how high protein starves the fat at the moment. But if I was the most knowledgeable I could be, and I was good at my job, and I had all these different tools in the shed for me to lose fat, lowering the carbohydrate will probably be like one of the last tools I use. I do everything I can before I start lowering the carbohydrate. And so protein, if you put too much protein in, it's going to hinder the liver. Remember that protein, that too much protein in the liver is a messy task for it, and you start producing enzymes. Your liver produces enzymes, it puts your hormones out. Your liver doesn't produce those hormones, and you get an imbalance. So basically, protein is high in fashion. We're going to see exactly why we need it, what it's good for, and how it works as a fuel. So proteins we find from our eggs, from our animal products mainly, from our fish, our chicken, our game. We also find it from plant products too, like our nuts, like our legumes, our tofu. And we also find it from our supplements as well, which is basically derived from a dairy. And so these are the different places that we can get our proteins. And it's all come down to this collective whole called a protein, all right? So that's what we know. But proteins are broken down into hundreds of different types of amino acids. Yeah, once it goes through our liver for sorting, out the other end comes 8 essential amino acids and 12 non-essential amino acids. All right. So 8 essential amino acids. They're basically very essential to your body, and they're called essential because your body can't find them if it's not from a food. So we have our 12 non-essential amino acids, and not to say that they're not essential to the body, but basically your liver can manufacture them from the 8 essential amino acids. Not that you need to know the whole list there. Basically you need to know there's 20, you need all 20 of them. When they break down, they enter the digestive system, and eventually they enter the bloodstream. So while they're in the bloodstream, what do they do there? Okay, what do they do once they're there? Your amino acids are they're the building blocks. They're the repairing. They're the foundation of your building blocks for your body. Now they're going to go through and they're going to repair your hair. They're going to repair your eyes. They're going to repair your nails, your organs, your brain, and that's going to repair those cells. All right, it's to build them back up again once they've been broken down. But those organs and whatnot, they're not moving. But what is moving is your muscles. So the main reason for protein is to repair and rebuild your muscles up, these amino acids. And it's going to repair and make sure that you don't break down that muscle when you run out of that glucose. So we're going to have a look at what happens when people starve themselves. Don't starve your muscles. So when you diet and you exercise, you run out of that glycogen, and if you do too much of either, you start to break down that muscle. All right? Now everyone knows someone that has subjected themselves to starving. All right? So someone says, all right, well, I want to lose fat, I'm just not going to eat. And it works. All right? Yeah, they do lose fat. But the problem, and what they don't know about is that you start losing 60% muscle as opposed to 40% fat. And that's a problem. So they might not know, or they might not even care. They say, I don't even know what muscle is, I just want to diet and starve. And they lose that muscle. Now why would your body want to break down that muscle? Why would it break down more muscle than it would fat? Now, remember, your body is an ancient thing, and we're subject to famine and we're subject to feast. But just say we're in a massive famine, and your body thinks, okay, well, I'm hitting that survival mode again. So if what it wants to do is wants to break down that muscle. Say I'm a 100-kilo guy and I'm sitting next to a 50-kilo guy. All right, so I've got more muscle than that guy's got. So to keep me alive, I'm going to need more fuel just to stay alive. So that muscle that's sitting there is starting to look like a liability. So if we're starving and there's only so much food, then and it breaks down that muscle, it becomes less of a liability. And on the other side, it wants to hold on to that fat. Now that's that storage, that survival mechanism. But if you keep on losing more fat and losing more fat, then eventually you'll be dead. So it tries to lose a muscle and keep the fat, and it becomes a very hard job. So don't do this, all right? Now, one of the ways we can stop that muscle loss is to keep a constant supply of amino acids in your bloodstream, yeah? You want to have proteins as the base of every meal for your day. Yeah, so you have a little bit of protein for breakfast, a little bit of protein for lunch. Now, your liver does get burdened by protein, but a little bit of protein at a time is okay. And you want to, if you're dieting for fat loss, you want to have that little bit of protein with every meal. Now, another reason to have that amino acid with every meal is because, just say you are at risk of burning that muscle and you've got amino acids in your bloodstream, your body's going to prefer to break down that amino acid, which is already broken down, than to break down your muscle and break that down instead. Does that make sense? It's already broken down, so why would it break down your muscle if that amino acid in the bloodstream's already there? Okay, so do you see those guys at the gym and they've got, or those girls that have got those bottles and they've got like that colourful water in there? All right, and they're drinking it, they're sipping it throughout their gym session. That's called branched chain amino acids. Now, there are a select number of amino acids that these guys, they may or may not know what they're doing, but basically that's amino acids that are very, they supply the muscle very easily, they break down, they're into the bloodstream very easy, and they repair the muscle very easily. Now, they also, if these people are dieting and they're drinking that stuff, then it's going to give them less risk of them breaking down that muscle. And your body's going to prefer to break down that amino acid, that branched chain amino acid, than your muscle. Okay, so that's what our proteins and our amino acids do for our body, but we want to know what this high protein fashion is. How do we use protein as a fuel? All right, now let's have a little look. So we diet and cause this depletion, and we have a low carbohydrate diet. So we don't have much carbohydrate in our diet, and we replace that carbohydrate with protein instead. So we have an abundance of protein. All right, now when this protein breaks down, it's going to turn into amino acids, and you're going to get a lot of amino acids in the bloodstream. All right, now this guy's empty, all right, it wants some glucose. Now while it's there, it either can repair that muscle, or it can use it for, break it down for fuel if it's in dire straits. But just say your liver says, and it's a smart thing, it's that brain of your body, right? And it says, okay, well I don't have any carbohydrate here, well the next one in line is my proteins. Remember that order of priority? So it says, all right, well I'm smart enough, I can convert these amino acids into glucose as well. Now this is a process called gluconeogenesis. All right, what's neo mean? Neo means new. So genesis, the creation of, new, sugar. So creation of new sugar from amino acids. So you now have glucose in the bloodstream. You have, with every glucose cell, you have a response with insulin, and now you have we now have glucose and insulin in the bloodstream, and all we've eaten is protein. And that's exactly how it happens. The insulin goes to the insulin receptor, and that glucose starts to restore to the muscle, and all you've eaten is protein. Now, this is a very messy and it puts a lot of stress on the liver, but it can be done anyway. Yeah. So we've got sugar going to the muscle from the protein we've eaten. But how does that protein starve fat? How does a high protein diet starve fat? Well, protein works in much the same way as a low GI carbohydrate. So remember, carbohydrates coming in at 100 kilometers an hour and protein's coming at 58 kilometers an hour. Protein is very low GI. So it just takes time for it to break down. And this guy's empty, so he's waiting, he's like, where's my sugar? And it takes time for it to break down into amino acids. Yeah, this is already a complex task for the liver. It takes time to flood that bloodstream, and it takes time for it to come back to the liver again. So it's going to come back to the liver again, and it's very, very slow, steady process. All right, it just takes so much time. In the meanwhile, this guy's still waiting for his glucose. Yes, glucose neogenesis, taking a long time. Thank you very much. Yep, insulin, so it's a very steady insulin response. All right, it's very, very slow, slower than your barley. So that means that this person is going to uptake very slowly, and hence going to give him a very, or her, going to give her a very massive glycogen gap. So what happens when you've got a glycogen gap? You start to burn fat, right? And so remember that your liver is always trying to fill up that muscle. So it's trying to fill it up now with glucose from your proteins, and it's also trying to fill up that gap with glucose from your fats, from your stored fat. And that's exactly how protein starves the fat.